The new weapon crafting system in Destiny had me a bit confused at launch, so I figured I'd do a summary for anyone who's in my shoes. Now, when you're playing through the campaign, or any activity for that matter, you're going to start noticing weapons dropping with a red square around the icon. My first impression was, oh, sweet, I can craft this. But not quite, and it's actually a bit convoluted. Like, the more I thought about how to explain all the different types of drops, the more I ended up scratching my head on how I could visualize this for you, but here's my best shot at an early stage in the new season. To get things started, I first want you to imagine the whole pool of weapons that are available in the game to drop while you're playing. This is no different from before. There's a random chance to get whatever weapon is about to drop. Only now there's two versions of it. There's a regular drop like we've been used to seeing in the past few years, and then there's the drop where it has that red square around the icon. The perks could be the same, all of that stuff can be identical in these two drops, just one of them has a red square and a crafting box. It does not mean it's craftable. That was my first instinct, but that's not the way to think of it. I want you to see it as simply getting a version of a weapon that allows you to cash in on some crafting currency to use later on. To make it very, very clear, a regular drop is equal to a regular drop. A drop with the red outline is equal to that same regular drop plus a bit of crafting currency. That's really all there is to it. But now to really understand what's going on with all of these weapon drops, I want you to repicture that big massive pool of weapons in the game. This time we're going to split them up by ones that are not craftable and ones that are craftable. Plain and simple, there are weapons, even some of the new ones, that can drop right now and they're just not going to be craftable. Now, before we get into how you can tell which ones are, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for the support this past year. Because of the channel's growth, I was actually able to partner with one of my favorite companies named AdvancedGG. I know they're in a lot of Destiny channels, but I've been drinking their powdered drink named Focus for the last 2 years, and I really love it over coffee and other brands that I've tried. So yeah, just thanks to all of you for helping me be in the position where I could even reach out. And if you're interested in trying out their product, you can use my code CASTLE at the checkout and you'll get 30% off if you do it today. But the most reliable way to check to see if a weapon is or isn't craftable is by going to your patterns and exotics under your triumphs page. If you see your weapon in these sections, then you know it's going to be craftable. That's where my initial confusion came in and part of why I ended up making this video. I got a new scout rifle. I think it was called the Currencies D or something. I know you're going to correct me on that one as well as the other, but basically it had a red square. I was excited to craft it. And then if you go to the patterns page, it's just not there. Now we're going to go through all of the steps on crafting a weapon and what you should and shouldn't do, for example. So I do think you need to stick around for all of that. But basically the summary of what I've just been trying to explain on how these loot pool weapons drop is a 4-quadrant diagram. That's the best way I could think of visualizing it. In the top left, you have a weapon that drops as a regular. That's that. It doesn't have a red outline. It also doesn't have a pattern, meaning it's not craftable in the future. In the bottom left, you could have got that same weapon, which means it doesn't have a pattern and it's not craftable, but this time it randomly has a red outline, meaning at least you could get some crafting currency to use on something else in the future. As I said, I'll explain that in a little bit, but then if you move to the right-hand side of this quadrant diagram, you could have a weapon drop and it has a pattern to be craftable someday, but big whoop, it's just sort of random roll. Like that's it. No red outline, no currency, whatever. You could also, however, have that same weapon drop with a red outline, meaning it has a pattern to craft someday, and you also have the option of just using this particular weapon to quickly get some of your crafting currency. I promise this will all come together throughout the rest of the video, but essentially this quadrant diagram should help explain kind of the 4 situations that you can run into. So I've mentioned crafting currency a lot. Why don't I just explain it? When you do get a red outline version of a weapon, you'll notice if you inspect it, a 4th box at the bottom, deepsight resonance. And when you hover over it, there'll be 2 main things, a progress bar and then 2 other squares below it. So if I use this weapon and get kills or finish activities, it doesn't matter, crucible, random enemies on planets, campaign, you name it, that'll all progress my attunement, which will eventually allow me to choose one of these currencies. A bonus tip is you don't even have to use it. It just has to be equipped. Like you could finish a level without even using the thing and you'll get a massive boost. This brings me to issue number 2 that I ran into. Like Bungie, I don't know which one I want to pick. How do I know if I need one currency over the other? You're kind of stressing me out right now. What if I pick the wrong one? I'm here to tell you, just pick one. Don't even sweat it. These things are dropping like crazy. Do not stress over it. Looking at this one, for example, they both offer a neutral element, which is definitely like the base currency for crafting, but then one of them offers ruinous or the other one offers energetic element. If I was to look at a different weapon, it'll actually show others as well. So I'm just going to put on screen right now all of the currencies that you're going to end up needing to craft a weapon so you can screenshot it or whatever. Either way, when you finish a red outline weapon, you pick one of these, you'll get 2 currency out of those 7 that were in that big list. It'll remove the red outline completely, and basically it's converted into what a regular drop would look like. Now let's hop into the actual crafting screen and make sense of this all. So you're going to go to the enclave on Mars and head down to the relic. It'll ask you to shape a new weapon or reshape an existing one. More on reshaping at the end. When you go to shape a new one, it's going to actually show you all of the craftable weapons that are in that loot pool. If you recognize this, it's basically showing you your patterns page in your triumphs. Watch this though. If I hover over the Sweet Sorrow auto rifle, it says this pattern has not been unlocked. That doesn't mean I haven't had it to drop yet, by the way. I can have a craftable weapon drop that still says it's locked. I'll explain the different methods of unlocking at the end, but let's just pick the shotgun for now since I mentioned that in the beginning. First off, you start with the masterwork, and on a shotgun, notice that there's 5 options here. There's the usual 4, range, stability, reload, handling, but the 5th one is literally the archetype itself because the other ones are locked behind a leveling system. I'm also going to explain the leveling system later on, so stick around, but it's worth mentioning right now that any currency that it says you're going to spend by clicking these buttons don't actually get spent until the very end when you hold that final craft button on the far right hand side. Once I pick the archetype, it'll open up all of the actual perk options. I go to the barrel, which is the first column. Here you're going to see something similar where I have 2 options that are unlocked at base, but then the other ones are kind of behind an upgrade level. Thanks Bungie for giving us smoothbore right out the gate. You'll notice that all of them require neutral element, and that's the currency that I got for finishing a red outline weapon earlier on. I move on to the mag. It's the same story here. It's all neutral element. Then I move on to the 2 perk columns. In here, there are 6 perks, but 12 choices. Essentially, you have the 6 perks at base, and then you have 12 choices that are enhanced versions. Most of these enhanced perks are just doing a better job of the regular perks trait, but some of them do randomly add stats too. If I look at dual loader on the shotgun, for example, I think it reloads 3 for every reload animation instead of 2, so it's sort of just a little bit better. Sometimes it's super vague, it's not this descriptive, but to demonstrate the stat boost, I'm going to go to a different craftable one like a pulse rifle because it has Zen Moment on it. Notice how here it says Zen Moment increases the stability, right? We all know that. That's at base. But then if I look at the enhanced version, it says the same thing, increased stability. I'm not sure if that's like hyper increased stability or whatever, but the part that I want to point out is that it adds 5 stability at base to the stats of the weapon before the perk even procs. Once you're done picking all of your perks, again, nothing has been charged yet, then you hold the button on the far right-hand side. And while I was hovering over those, you probably noticed some of those other currencies, right? If we go back to that list of 7, there was the Ascendant Alloy and whatnot. Those are things that you get by doing other things in the game that are just going to take too long. I want to make this video really focused on crafting itself. And to cap it off on this last section, I want to circle back on 2 things I mentioned, unlocking and leveling. Having a craftable weapon randomly drop doesn't mean you can suddenly craft it in the future. You have to actually unlock their ability to be crafted. Let's go back to your patterns and catalysts page under triumphs, and I've noticed 3 different ways to unlock these weapon patterns. Number 1 is that some of them require a quest completion. For example, for me to get the shotgun, I did the reshaping enigma quest to get this one unlocked. That's all. It just immediately unlocked once I finished that quest. Number 2, look at this empirical evidence sidearm. It says completing deep sight resonance will unlock this pattern. Well, if I look at my sidearm, it's got like 40-some%. I'll quickly rip into PvE, kill some dudes to get it to 100% attunement. I arbitrarily choose whatever craft currency I might want someday, so I pick that, and then bam, the act of doing this completed its deep sight resonance. Probably noticed on the bottom of the screen that red thing popped up that said, hey Castle, that thing unlocked. If I go back to my pattern screen, there you have it. It's turned green. I click on it. It's now golden. Bam. I can go and craft this weapon now that I've unlocked it. That's really the only 2 methods, but the reason I said there was 3 ways is just because some of these things require multiple of that. Taking a look at these 2 auto rifles, one says 0 out of 2 and the other one says 0 out of 5. Basically, that means I would need 2 of those auto rifles to drop. And when they drop, I need to get lucky enough that they drop with the red outline so that I can do their deep sight resonance. Once I finish the attunement on those 2 auto rifles and hand them both in, it'll actually change. Now, the second part I'm circling back to is how you saw that some of those perks in the crafting screen were sort of locked or restricted behind a weapon level. If you've noticed, on all of these weapons that I've showed you, there's been no weapon level or anything like that. Take this random rolled shotgun that dropped for me right here. I could go out and get 1,000 kills with this thing, and it would be a complete waste. Nothing counts towards leveling a weapon until you've actually crafted it. I had to go and craft an absolute dog water roll of this shotgun in order to open up the level progression. Once I did that, take a look at this version of the shotgun, which is the one that I crafted. It's sitting at 86%. That's because after I crafted this base piece of junk, I took it into the crucible for a little while and I got up to 86% in one session. Eventually, once I've leveled it up enough, I can go for certain perks like that enhanced elemental capacity. That one requires level 15. Now, before I forget, something I wanted to mention about crafting is that I haven't actually dismantled a leveled crafted weapon yet. Like, what if I toasted this 86% level 1 shotgun right now? Would I get my partial currency back? Because it costs quite a bit just to even make this base piece of junk. Same thing here. If anyone's done this, let us know down below, please. And I'll wrap the video up by just mentioning the fact that you can reshape a weapon. Like, let's say you crafted a weapon and you accidentally picked the wrong perk for whatever reason and you were freaking out because that cost you a lot of currency. Well, you haven't really completely wasted everything. You can go in and recraft that perk. It will cost you some currency to craft that one specific perk, but it's not like you're going to have to respend all the currency to recraft a new version. Or for example, what if you're at like level 15 or level 17 on a weapon and then they nerfed something called quick draw and all of a sudden you just love this weapon, but you want to swap out quick draw for something else. It would really suck for you to have to re-level that weapon. So I think the reshaping thing is for moments like that where you're like, you know what, I'm not really digging this perk anymore, but I like the rest of them. I just want to go in and reshape it to have this one specific perk. Either way, I've been rambling for probably too long. I hope this helped you out. I'm going to go make a video explaining every single aspect and fragment. So if you want to learn about that, you better hit the subscribe button right now. Or if you like this video, please feel free to share it with others. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.